Can someone please tell me who broke Hyundai's heart and then they went on a journey to find themselves? Because holy moly, Hyundai is on fire. Hyundai has an extremely weird reputation, from being the laughingstock of the automotive industry to being one of the most respected value per dollar brands ever created. And the sports car community and the enthusiast community has always given Hyundai a very hard time. But thankfully, I think that's starting to turn around with Hyundai's TCR class just absolutely annihilating competition for like 4 years in a row. It's a long way since the Tiburon, if you know what I'm saying. And also the Veloster N, the Elantra N, and even the Kona N, which is actually pretty fun to drive. By the way, if you don't know what the N brand stands for, it means Nürburgring, which we will get to later. And what makes Hyundai really special right now is that they're not scared to take chances at all. A lot of the times other sports car brands will kind of take a step back and go, should we build this sports car? Should we build this or should we build that? And Hyundai is just kind of like, that seems pretty cool, let's build it. And the best example is their N Vision 74 concept, which was an homage to an old pony concept thing that they built in the 70s. And I made a video speculating that it might go into production, because there were rumors in the industry that it might go into production. And then a few days later, they denied all of these rumors. And then I'm just sitting there going, come on, everyone wants you to build it, just listen. And then later down the road, there's rumors again. It's a mess. However, we did just get confirmation about a very cool sports car Hyundai is building and releasing next year. And what is that? That is the Ioniq 5N. Before we dig into the nitty gritty of this car, just a quick announcement. I'm actually going to be racing in my first ever wheel-to-wheel open cockpit race in Radical SR1s with Primal Racing at Atlanta Motorsports Park this Saturday. So if you would like to come support me, I would absolutely love to see you. And it's gonna be really intense for me. It's my first time competing wheel-to-wheel, and I'm a little nervous, but I could be more excited. So, the Ioniq 5N. The N Vision 74 was kind of a romantic drama of a will they or won't they build this? This one was a rumor, and then it was just confirmed. The Ioniq 5 is actually one of my favorite EVs to come out in recent memory, just when it comes to a commuter car, because it has a very cyberpunk appearance, and I really dig it. Then they decided to make a sports car version, which is just awesome, because it suits the styling of this car. The Ioniq 5N might change the EV sports car forever. And I know that sounds dramatic, but hear me out on this one. What's so missing in EVs nowadays, with enthusiasts especially, is the soul, if you will, the character, what makes you feel good, the sights and the sounds and the smells and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, I want a Tesla. It's my dream car.
When you get into a Tesla, you put your floor down, it goes fast and kind of feels like a one-trick pony. Is it fast? Absolutely. Oh, my head. Now, after a while, you're gonna be like, you know, now what? Yeah. But with this, it might be a game changer. Now, I do want to give credit to the Porsche Taycan Turbo S, because they did add some character to the EV sports car landscape. And it actually had a 2-speed transmission. Bing! Oh, God! Which actually gave it a little bit more of a dynamic feel, knowing that you're hitting that second gear and having that frame of reference for your brain. Because with EVs, you have no idea how fast you're going typically, because your brain doesn't have that reference in a single speed gearbox, especially. But with the Porsche Taycan, its main downfall is that it's really expensive, so a lot of people don't get to experience it. With the Ioniq 5N, let's start with the fun stuff and why I think it's pretty cool. First, the horsepower. The car makes 601 horsepower and 545 pound-feet of torque, which makes it the most powerful Hyundai ever made. And the motors will spin up to 21,000 RPM. It will go 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. For reference, an old 2008 R35 GTR does about the same thing at like 3.5 or something like that. That's how far we've come. With in-grid boost activated, the car makes 641 horsepower. Obviously, you're gonna use more battery power, but who cares? And with the Ioniq 5N, it really deserves the N name because it has over 6,000 miles of development on the Nürburgring itself. And compared to the Ioniq 5, it's got better suspension, bushing tolerances, a 3-position electronically controlled damper system, better spring tuning, better control arms made out of aluminum, and mount reinforcement. And according to Car and Driver, Hyundai is serious about the 5N service life on track. The goal is for the Ioniq 5N to be able to complete 2 laps of the Nürburgring Nordschleife with little performance degradation. It also has massive brakes to slow this thing down, which is even better. That would be really bad if it didn't have pin brakes. I know that's a given on a performance car today, but sometimes you don't know. Sometimes they'll, jip you on small brakes and you have to upgrade to the optional bigger brakes. Thankfully, that's not the case here. So let's go over a weird one. The sound. It uses speakers to create different sounds, but it has different sound settings. So one is like the stereotypical electronic Jetson style sound you'll find in a lot of EVs, which that sound is called the Evolution. Then there's a sound called Supersonic, which simulates a fighter jet style noise. But most people are looking forward to the inline-4 turbo engine sound coming from the Elantra and the Kona N. So you'll be able to simulate those cars in the speakers, which sounds very much like a gimmick. However, at least you'll have some frame of reference for how fast you're going, and it'll kind of feel like a combustion car. And I'm sure with the speaker system technology getting a lot better, it'll be a better frame of reference than it used to be. There's also different driving modes such as in race and sprints, which uses all available power. Okay, so there's the basis of the car. It makes power, it's very fast, and it's an EV. And I know what you're thinking. David, why are you talking about another EV sports car? We've seen it all by now. EVs always make horsepower. They're always pretty fast. When it comes to the grand scheme of things, even the commuter cars are pretty fast relatively. But what makes the Ioniq 5N special? It's actually the transmission, or transmission. The Ioniq 5N will have simulated gear shifts. In other words, it's going to try and simulate the feeling of the 8-speed auto found in the other N cars. So you're not going to have this direct drive feeling like a single speed in most EVs. Then that leads to the thought, well, how does that work? How's that even possible? When I heard about this, my brain actually went to a completely different realm. And that was the day back in 2015, I met Christian von Koenigsegg, which, by the way, if you're ever watching, it was an absolute honor meeting you all those years ago. And you melted my brain with your engineering skills. And the Koenigsegg Regera had simulated style gear shifts with its direct drive system that was patented by Koenigsegg. So it shifted, but at the same time didn't in a very weird way. It's extremely complex and hard to describe. But that's kind of the feeling and vibe I'm getting from the Ioniq 5N, is that it's gonna simulate the 8-speed gear changes and you can hit paddles. So why is this important? Well, this EV might be the first EV sports car to have something like this that's not $200,000 like the Taycan Turbo S with its 2-speed. Look, I know it's not a manual transmission through an EV quite yet, but it is something. It is something different that the EVs have been really struggling with enthusiasts, is to capture their imagination, capture the emotion, capture the feeling of driving something fast or something like in the good old days. And look, you guys know how I feel about EVs and when it comes to the mining industry and where people get their batteries and their cobalt and their lithium and all that stuff. Not a really big fan. But when it comes to the car itself and the technology itself, I think the Ioniq 5N is onto something. Now, how it's gonna be in action, Hyundai, I would love to come see it. Please, I would love to drive it and give it a first impression, just so we can tell all the fellow enthusiasts what we're missing. Because think about it, it's gonna have amazing torque, it's gonna have amazing power, and if you're gonna be able to manually control the shifts, then that will add a dynamic to track driving specifically, to where your brain knows what second gear feels like in one car and second gear feels like in an EV will be different, but you'll be able to control the power distribution. That's one thing about driving something like a Tesla on track, because you have that single speed and you're kind of like, okay, so like, where do I need to be around this corner compared to this corner? Simulating this 8-speed gearbox will probably make this feel more dynamic and actually easier to drive fast on track, because once again, frame of reference is so important. When we're so used to combustion engines, gearboxes with separated gears, usually when you're learning how to drive on track, you go around one bend and you go, okay, I need to be in this gear rather than this gear. And that can be a big help when it comes to an EV. I think the one thing I'm a little concerned about is that it has a simulated burble tune, because I'm not a burble tune guy. So we'll see how that goes. But Hyundai is completely transparent that interrupting the torque delivery within eShift isn't the quickest way around a track, but only by a slim margin. Car and Driver states, if you take manual control with the shift paddles and miss a shift, you will actually hit a virtual fuel cutoff. So basically you can miss a gear in an EV, which I find beneficial, believe it or not. I find that really good, that will keep you on your toes and keep you into the experience. So basically, it's not as fast as the car could potentially be in a perfect world where it doesn't use the simulated technology, but it doesn't matter. Hyundai has just claimed that it's way more fun to drive this way, and it's much more dynamic and engaging to drive this way. Something EVs never seem to think about. Usually EVs are one-trick ponies, and you're like, okay, my brain hurts, and that was cool, and maybe I'm a little nauseous, but that was wild. So my final thoughts on this, and I think you and I are probably on the same wavelength. The vibe that I'm feeling is, on paper, it sounds kind of dumb. I don't mean that as an insult to Hyundai. I think what we're getting is that vibe of, you know, the early 2010s. I think we're having the mindset of something like the BMW i8, which had speaker sound coming from the 3-cylinder engine. Like, that just wasn't a cool thing. I think our brains are gonna be so crazy busy driving the Ioniq 5N that with the speaker stuff and all that, I think we're gonna be thankful that it's there rather than the dead silence. So I think in action, in actual practice, I think the Ioniq 5N is gonna prove its worth with all this new kind of experimental technology. I think it's gonna be one of those things where on paper, you're like, it uses sound through the speakers. Where's my V8? Oh man, it has simulated gear shifts. That's dumb. I need my H pattern. Like, I get it. I totally understand it. But when it comes to futuristic sports cars, I think this is a step in the right direction of figuring out what people want, what people don't want, what is engaging, what is not engaging, and trying to give an EV sports car a soul. Also, there's gonna be like 10 colors for this thing, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, those are my final thoughts. What are your thoughts? Down in the comment section below. Do you like the idea of the Ioniq 5N? Put it down in the comment section below. Hopefully, see you guys Saturday, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.